Hello, welcome to the Human Blueprint Podcast. This is a podcast exploring the framework of personal growth, self-discovery, and resilience. Through relatable stories, humor, and actionable advice, we're going to tackle life's challenges to help you build a life of courage, confidence, and connection. I'm your host, Laura Dahl, and today's topic is Standing Strong, the Power of Independence and Self-Reliance. So what you're going to learn in this episode is what independence and self-reliance really mean and how they apply to your life, why trusting yourself is key to confidence, fulfillment, and personal growth, the common barriers to independence and how to overcome them, practical steps to develop independence and take ownership of your choices, and examples of independence in our relationships, finances, workspaces, and emotional well-being. So let's get into it. First of all, let's talk about what independence is. A lot of people think that independence means that I have to do everything on my own. I can't ask for help from anybody. I don't need help from anyone. And while that may be true in some instances, for me, independence means the ability to make your own decisions, the ability to take action, or the ability to trust yourself without depending heavily on others. So there are a lot of people that I know personally that I've coached over the years that really struggle making decisions. They second guess everything that pops into their head. They're not sure if that's the right decision. They don't feel like whatever decision they make is the right one. They're constantly second guessing their choices. And I think that that's agonizing to watch in people. I'm a pretty independent person. My independence comes from a lot of trauma as a child. It comes from being in survival mode for most of my adult life. But I've never really had to run most of my decisions by someone in order to feel confident that that was the right decision. I typically did my research, made my decision, and ran with it. And then I felt strongly in my convictions of the decision I made because I knew that I made an informed decision. I knew that whatever decision I was making was based on my gut and based on how I felt at the time and based on what I wanted to happen. I think it's excruciating to watch people that are so nervous to make a decision that they're immobilized, that they can't make a decision because no decision is the right one or they don't feel like it's the right one. So to me, true independence means being able to just take action knowing that you made the right decision for you, but it's really about trusting yourself. It's about trusting that you do know what's right for you. It's about trusting that you've done the research to make the right decision. It's about making sure that you are good with whatever the outcome is because that's the decision that you felt was best for you. I think when it comes to independence, I think a lot of people see a very independent person as almost a threat because people like to feel needed. People want to feel needed and wanted. And when someone is truly independent, they carry themselves in a way that makes it seem like they don't need anybody. And I want you to understand that there's a difference between being independent and being self-reliant. So self-reliance is really about trusting your own judgment and resourcefulness to navigate life's challenges. So self-reliance just means that you don't need to seek approval from someone else. You don't need anything from someone else. You're not standing with your hand out waiting for someone else to give you what you need, right? You go work for it. You earn it. You earn their trust. You have investigated the things. You are not reliant on the feedback of other people to make your decisions. I think that's why most of us feel so stuck in our lives is that we're actually scared to make decisions on our own without getting feedback from people. Well, what will my family think? What will my partner think? What will my kids think if I did this? What would the preacher think at church? Or whatever. We are so concerned with the opinions of others and so scared to trust on our own desires and our own heart that we are stuck. We kind of are paused and frozen in time until somebody gives us the green light or go ahead. And I'm here to tell you, you don't need anyone to give you the green light or the go ahead. You can give that gift to yourself. You are capable of doing whatever it is that you want to do. Now, that doesn't mean that you go out in the world and you make decisions without doing the homework. You're going to do the research. You're going to do the homework. You're going to acquire the skill that you need to be successful to pull off what you want to do. Now, don't go telling me I can't afford to go to school or I don't have time for this or that. Everything you want to know how to do is available on the internet, whatever it is. So you have no excuses not to arm yourself with the skill set or the tools that you need to do what you want to do. If money is the issue that's holding you back, then you find a way to earn it. You do some side jobs. You save some money. You skip the Starbucks coffee every day. You make choices that get you to where you want to go. But you trust in your gut that this is the decision that you want to make, and you don't need permission from anybody else to do it. So the difference between independence and self-reliance is independence is that I am capable of making my own decisions and taking action and trusting myself. The self-reliance is that I don't need anyone else to make that happen for me. There's a lot of single moms out there that don't need someone out there to provide for their children. There's a lot of single parents, period. There's a lot of people out there that don't have supportive spouses. And in order to do what they want to do, they just have to go do it, right? They have to make it happen for themselves. You have the ability to be both independent and self-reliant and still be in relationship. What I want you to understand is that independence does not mean isolation. It is not about not needing anyone. It's really about being able to stand strong while still enjoying connection with others. You need and crave connection with other human beings, but you don't need permission from others to do what it is that you want to do. I would tell you too that I'm a very independent person as far as strength. I don't really need something from other people to do what I want to do. But I also, one of my downfalls is that I'm so independent that it's hard for me to accept help from other people. And I know that you guys have heard this before, but when you don't accept help or you don't ask for help because you're very prideful, because you're very independent, you're worried about what it would look like if you ask for help, if that is you, I want you to understand that you are actually robbing the people in your life from the ability to show them how much they care about you. You're robbing the people in your life the ability to demonstrate love for you. Because you are so independent and because you refuse to ask for help, you're also refusing to let people into your world to show you how much they care about you and how much they love you. It's not about how they think negatively about you. It's how do they show up for you when you ask them to. And something that I want you to think about is asking for help. Does that equate to admitting that you're not capable? Or is it giving someone the opportunity to show up for you? You don't have to do it all alone, but the difference is, can you? Are you able to? Or do you have to have somebody for everything that you do? I know you're capable of doing it on your own. I know that you're capable of being reliant on yourself to provide yourself whatever you need to get done what you want to get done. One of the reasons that independence is so important is that I think it's essential for personal growth. I think that your independence, your ability to be independent, it actually builds trust in yourself. Every experience that you have where you do the research, you trust your gut, you make an informed decision, and the outcome was good, every time you have that is a corrective experience for you. Every time that you believe in yourself and build trust in yourself and actually rely on your own abilities and skills that you all have, that is a corrective experience that allows you that the next time you go to make a decision, you already know you've done it. You've proven to yourself that you can. That's an essential part of personal growth, of being able to rely on yourself when the world is hitting you in the face, when you are getting smacked down by everything that comes at you. Being independent means that it's going to be okay. I'm going to find a way out. I don't look to other people to solve that problem for me. If I did look to other people, it's because I want additional help. not because I have to get their help. The other part about independence is that it actually strengthens your relationships with other people. If you are super codependent, meaning that you you rely on your partner or spouse to be around constantly, you're incapable of doing things without them, you need their feedback in order to feel good about a decision. I think that that actually um, makes people feel stuck. It makes people feel like that they are so dependent on that person that they would be lost without them. And then what happens one day when things fall apart? How do you pick yourself back up and move forward with life when you have created this symbiotic relationship with this one person that you are so dependent on that you're incapable of navigating the world by yourself? We are a communal society, meaning that we do need interaction and communication with other people, but you also have to be able to stand on your own. You have to be able to pick yourself up when things dissolve and relationships fall apart. And they do, unfortunately, fall apart sometimes. And you have to be able to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and move forward on your own with the strength inside of you to say, I don't need this in order to survive. I don't have to have this to be happy. I don't have to have this person's approval in order for me to do the things that are on my heart and mind. Would I like it? Yes. Do I crave it? Yes. Of course you want the support of your people, but you don't need it. And that is the difference. When you recognize that you don't have to have it, that you don't need it, that you still can accomplish what you want on your own without it, that is a power that you are gifting to yourself. The last reason I think independence is so important is because I think it creates personal fulfillment. I think it allows you to live your life in alignment with your values. I think that leads to more satisfaction. If I am constantly dependent on the feedback of my partner or the feedback of my boss or the feedback of my friends in order to feel fulfilled and to to be happy, what's going to happen that feels like I'm living for them, for their approval. I'm seeking their validation. And the truth is, you actually just need to seek your own validation. You need to approve of your own choices. I think you're going to have stronger, healthier relationships when you have some boundaries in place that exert your independence, when you demonstrate to yourself that you can rely on yourself to get done what you need to, that you have access to everything at your fingertips. You don't need someone else to provide that for you. You have to have drive. You have to have motivation. You have to be so inspired that you go get it. But you don't need to wait for it to be delivered by someone else. You don't need to stand with your hand out or wait for their like or their comment or their share or whatever it is that you want from them, that you're seeking an external validation to make you feel like you're doing the right stuff. Let's talk about some common barriers to independence. Like, why is independence so hard? Number one, we all have a fear of failure, right? The fear of failure is so big that it paralyzes us. It keeps us from taking forward action because we don't want to fail. Maybe we've invested everything we have in this. I know a lot of realtors that I've coached over the years that, this is their last shot at this business. They've invested all their savings. They're running out of money. That's a lot of pressure on yourself. But the other part is I have heard agents tell me, I cannot fail at this. The question I would ask next is why? What is so bad about what you consider a failure? I would tell you right now, what I consider a failure means I didn't try. It means I didn't do the work. To me, that's a failure. If I put in the effort and I didn't get the results out of it that I wanted, I don't count that as a failure because I know I learned lessons in it. I actually demonstrated to myself some ability that I didn't know that I had before. And I think that part of what holds us back is the fear of what other people might think of us and how we determine what a failure is. We have so much pressure riding on us to be successful, but success looks different to everybody, right? You might delay making decisions because you're waiting for someone else to take the lead because you're not sure that you're capable of it. You're not sure that you would be the best pick for it. And all that does is make you look small. It makes you look like you don't believe in your own capabilities. The other thing is, part of why we are not as independent as we could be is that we also have an over-reliance on others and their opinions, right? We're constantly asking our friends and family for advice instead of trusting our own instincts. And science proves, like when we say trust your gut, there's actually a hormonal change in your body when you are in a fearful position. The chemicals in your bodies change. And so you actually need to trust your gut. It's a physical response to your body detecting danger. And we have lots of little triggers in our body physically and emotionally that are there to tell us that, to trust how we're feeling. If you get a feeling in your gut or you get a feeling in your that you're not sure what to do with, 9 times out of 10 you need to trust it because your body is trying to tell you that you're in some type of fight or flight stance. You're in some type of position where you might feel endangered, and you cannot rely on friends or family to help you through that. You need to be able to recognize in your own body what you're feeling in reaction to these circumstances, and then being able to identify what that means for you. But we rely so much on our friends and family to give us validation. We want them to think our ideas are good. We want them to think that we are living our successful lives. We don't want to admit to people and be vulnerable with our closest people that maybe we're struggling in an area. We also are surrounded by people in this world that are so talented, that are smarter than we are, that are more capable, that have already done some of the things that we want to do. And we are so afraid to ask those people for advice or help because we have this pride that keeps us from doing that. But imagine what you would learn if you were inquisitive about your life, if you were inquisitive about how people got to where they are, if you were not afraid to ask, how did you do this? Teach me, right? I am a lifelong learner. I've always been a professional student, if you will. My brain is very busy. I am constantly trying to learn new things. And I just want you to understand and know that you are probably surrounded by people who are very skilled, who are very intelligent, and maybe who are better at something than you are. Don't be afraid to ask them for help. Don't be afraid to ask them to give you advice. Don't be afraid to lean on them when you want to, when you need to. These are your people. This is the people in your life that you've chosen to surround yourself with. And I assure you, they want to help you. They want to see you grow in your business, as a person, in your relationships. But what I want to say about that is that you cannot be so reliant on these people that without them, you're incapable of doing it. Without them, you couldn't possibly be able to pull off what you want to pull off. You're using them as an ancillary resource. You're using the tools that you have around you, but you are not so dependent and reliant on those that you're not capable of doing yourself. Another reason that people kind of lack independence is that they have limiting beliefs. They truly don't believe in their capabilities, or they say to themselves, I'm not capable of doing this on my own. I often think of divorced women, single parents that are on a limited income. They only get maybe what their child support or alimony is. And they're basically living paycheck to paycheck. And they want so desperately to change their life and their lifestyle for their children. They're trying to rebuild their lives after a catastrophic end of their marriage. And they start telling themselves that they're not capable of living life on their own without that stability of a paycheck or a husband or a spouse or whoever was there to provide that for them before. And so they start to believe that they're not capable of doing that on their own. But I want you to think about who you were before you ever got married to begin with. Did you travel the world as a single independent person? Did you go to college, in a town far away from home? Did you, go out and get a job that nobody thought that, ever thought you would do? Did you prove to yourself in other ways that you are strong and capable all on your own? But when we get in these relationships, we get hyper dependent on our spouses or on our friends or our family members because that relationship gives us the confidence to feel like we can. But I need you to know that, you are capable of doing this on your own. I just want you to not fall into the trap of avoiding new challenges because you're afraid of failure. I want you to define what failure looks like to you, because failure to you is all that matters. It doesn't matter what your friends or your family or whoever thinks about failure. What defines failure is your definition of failure. Not succeeding at something that you tried is not failure, in my opinion. You have got to make an effort. You've got to do the research. You got to do the work. You got to do the homework. You got to be prepared. You got to acquire the skills, the money, the habits, whatever it takes to become successful. But you cannot avoid life because you think you're incapable of doing it on your own, or avoiding opportunities that are presented to you because the people in your life have reacted in a negative way. The other part is just self-doubt. We second guess our decisions. We look at our past decisions and sometimes trusting ourselves led to a negative outcome. And so now we never trust ourselves again. And that's why I told you, every time you trust yourself and you have a positive outcome, that is a corrected experience for you. And you get to do that over and over and over again the more you give yourself a chance, right? So let's talk about some practical steps to becoming self-reliant. Some practical steps would be like taking responsibilities for your decisions. And that means maybe you just don't ask somebody what their opinion is first. You map it all out. You do all the homework. You do all the research. You plan accordingly. And then you look that over and you say, you know what? I'm happy with this choice. I'm happy with the decision that I'm making because I've done the work. The problem is we make a lot of decisions on the fly. We're very reactive to things. And some of us are more reactive than others. Some of us are very slow and methodical thinkers, and we have to weigh out all of our options and do all the research and make the pro and con list. You don't have to be that person. But if you have at least weighed the outcomes and you've looked at the decision as two paths and you've decided which path is the best one for you, and you've done the homework of which one has the outcome that I'm looking for, then I want you to trust in your gut and trust in your decision-making ability. I do want you to learn how to put some boundaries in place for yourself and take control. So for example, if you're unhappy with your schedule, maybe you set some boundaries and take control of your time. So for example, like at work, you can say to somebody, you know what, I can't commit to this right now, but I'll let you know if I'm available later. And it's perfectly okay. I guess what I mean by that, let's say a better example might be that a friend asked you to go out to dinner. And again, I've already told you, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no for me. Because what happens if it's a maybe I should go, then typically what happens is I commit to it. And then the day of the thing comes or the day before comes and I recognize, I don't really want to go to that. And now I start backpedaling and I start saying, I wish I hadn't said yes. And then resentment starts to build in because I committed to something that really wasn't a hell yes for me. And so what I want you to feel comfortable doing is if somebody invites you to something that you don't want to go to, without feeling guilty, I want you to be able to say, I can't commit to this right now, but I'll let you know if I'm available later. Or, this is not something I can squeeze in this week. Or this is not something that I'm capable of doing right now because we're on a budget or whatever it is. But I want you to trust in your own decision. I want you to trust and take responsibility for it, that your friend would rather you tell them that you can't do it than for you to commit and then cancel at the last minute. And a lot of us do that. So if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. The other thing I want you to do is start small. Build your confidence. If you are one of those people who does not trust their decisions, I want you to just start with small little decisions that you can make corrective experiences for yourself and recognize that, you know what, I can lean on myself. I can trust in my own understanding of what's best for me. I don't need validation and input from my friends or family or coworkers or boss to make me feel like I did this right. Start small and start building the confidence piece by piece, right? Maybe you need to go to dinner by yourself, go to the movies by yourself before you plan a big solo trip to Europe. Start with little baby things. The other thing I want you to do is to create a trust list. Write down times that you have successfully handled a challenge on your own. I know it's that dreaded question we get in job interviews all the time, which is name a scenario in which you faced a challenge and tell us how you overcame it, right? This is kind of a similar activity or exercise where it's just show yourself that you have proven to yourself that you can trust yourself, where you have made decisions for yourself that actually ended up great, that it worked out exactly how you wanted. So I might say to myself, you know what? I learned how capable I am when actually through a failure. So I'll tell you a quick story. I've been a real estate broker for over 25 years. I've sold houses in 4 states, and I've also owned 2 real estate firms in my career. And I will tell you that I learned so many lessons in learning, in opening and operating those 2 firms. But in 2021, I actually lost my company, which felt like seemingly overnight. There was a mass exodus and recruitment to another firm. And in one day, I think I signed 36 documents where agents had left my firm and gone to another firm. And my entire identity was wrapped up in operating this firm. I was very proud of what I had built. I was very proud of the people that I had recruited to come work for me. And overnight, that was gone. Overnight, I was left feeling like a failure because my company had to close. I was left picking up the pieces of my career, trying to decide what to do next. I felt like a failure. I felt like I let people in my life down. I was betrayed by the people closest to me that I felt like were my family. And I had 2 choices. I could either look at myself at how I felt, which was, you're a failure. Why did you even do this? You had no business operating a firm, or I could tell myself all the negative things that I wanted to. Or I could look at what I built over the 5 years, look at the people that I recruited to my company, could look at the volume in sales that we had accomplished in a short period of time. I could look at the skills that I developed as a leader and a business owner. I could look at the impact that we made on lives, the impact we made on a community because we did volunteer activities every single month. I could look at the growth that my agents had just by being affiliated with our firm, or the coaching that I poured into them. And then I could look at the success that they had after my firm closed and where they went, and applying the knowledge that they learned while they were with me. And I'm extremely proud of that. But I will tell you that I had to embrace this failure in order to become the person that I am today. I had to embrace the lowest of lows that I've probably felt in my entire life, besides grief of losing my mother. I was grieving losing my business. I was grieving, my entire persona changing. And I will tell you that what came out of that as the gift is knowing that I was capable of it. I had proven to myself that I had opened 2 firms in my career. And to me, they were successful. They were successful for all those reasons that I listed earlier. But if I had looked at it as solely what it was, which was a failure of a closed firm, all the lessons that I learned in that would have been for nothing. And so what I'm telling you is that you have to embrace the failure as growth. You have to embrace these things that come at you in life, whether it's losing a job, unfortunately, the horrible thing of losing a child, of losing a loved one, of something happening in your home, of an injury, whatever things set us back from our life. All of those things contribute to who we are as humans. And I want you to understand that just because the outcome does not look like how we envisioned it, does not mean that there weren't lessons in that phase for us. I think losing my business is one of the hardest times of my life, and that was coming down off of COVID, where we were in a scary world. I didn't know what the health of my business looked like. I didn't know how things were going to turn out for my family. My income was slashed in fourth. I lost literally 3/4 of my income overnight. And you want to talk about having to make an adjustment to your lifestyle, making an adjustment to your household, how that impacts your family, how it impacts the other people that rely on you, whoever that is, if that's vendors, if that is, people that you take care of. It was hard. But I will tell you that I am stronger because of it. I am more self-reliant and independent now because of what I call that failure, because I had to rely on myself to pick myself up. There was no one coming to rescue me. There was no one coming to dry my tears. There was no one coming to tell me that this next phase of my life is about to be beautiful. And it was beautiful because I didn't have to. I wasn't obligated to pour into people. I wasn't obligated to work 100 hours a week anymore to pay all my bills and the overhead that running a business requires. The stress of operating that company almost killed me. But the beautiful gift that I was given was the ability to step away from that machine that was going 200 miles an hour and take a real hard look at my life and say, what do you want your life to look like from here? What lessons did you learn from this? How would you do things differently next time? What could you have done differently to produce a different outcome? But I accepted that reality. I accepted those outcomes because I knew what was on the other side was even more beautiful than what I lost. And that meant that I gave myself the gift of my life back. And I want the same for you. But the only way you get that is by embracing the failure that happens to you and not taking it as a personal, invitation to check out of your life. It's a personal invitation to evaluate. It's a personal invitation for you to accept that in all failures, there is growth. In all things that go sideways, there are lessons to be learned. They do not mean that your life is over. They do not mean that your career is over. They do not mean that you are now no longer successful. Success comes in different ways, shapes, and forms. But you get to decide what that looks like. But only when you are dependent on no one but your own vision for your life. You can get feedback from people. But when you weigh their feedback over your own hearts and desires, you're no longer independent. You're no longer trusting your own decision. So I hope that this episode was helpful for you. It was a little shorter one for you, but I do know that this is a very important skill for you to develop over time. We must become reliant on ourselves and our own abilities to make decisions for ourselves. We must be a little bit more independent. I know in relationships, we struggle with having some independence in our relationships because, we want to be together. We want to spend time together. Often spouses or partners have a hard time letting the other spouse have alone time because they're scared. They're afraid of what that person might do in that time. But I want to encourage you that we all need the freedom to spread our wings a little bit. We all need the freedom to discover ourselves and our lights without our partner there, without the people who are most influential over our decisions. We need alone time to reflect. We need alone time to process our feelings. We need alone time to discover what kinds of things we might be interested in or where we're heading. We also, and when I say alone time, I don't necessarily mean you need to be alone. You might need independence to go hang out with friends. You might need independence to go hang out with your coworkers. It just means independence free of your partner all the time with you. And if you don't have independent or alone time, you need to advocate for yourself and say, I need a little downtime. I need some time away from you so that I can recharge my batteries, so that I can come back refreshed, so that I can come back ready to take on the world with you. But you need and crave independence and some time outside of your marriage or outside of your relationship that has nothing to do with your partner, so that you feel like you have some autonomy in your life as well. When you are feeling like you have to run everything by your partner or everything by your spouse, or you need their permission. Oh, my wife would never let me go out with my friends on a Friday night, or I could never go on a trip for 3 days with my girlfriends because my husband wouldn't let me, or whatever that is not living your authentic life. That is also not living a life where you don't feel like you're being held back from something. And your first instinct is going to be to run when you feel trapped like that. You are going to feel like you don't have the ability to make decisions for yourself in your own life. And I will tell you that the more independence that you have, coupled with a healthy relationship with boundaries, the stronger your relationship is going to be. Okay? You guys check out this week's reflection prompts. Share your independence wins or struggles in our community on our Facebook page. And definitely hit the subscribe button or like button or share this podcast with your friends. I cannot wait to share next week's topic with you. Join me again next week for some more insight and what makes us human. Independence, just so you know, is not about proving you can do it alone. It's about knowing that you can while still choosing connection when it's right for you. True freedom comes from trusting yourself and from taking ownership of your life. You've got this.